right. It's so beautiful. Happy, happy, happy solstice. I felt so called to come here and to give this message today for so many reasons. You know me. I mean, this is what I do, and I have so many beautiful announcements and so many beautiful aspects of my life that have changed that I'm so truly thrilled to continue to do this archive. It's for me, by me, so what the fuck ever. Just want to start by saying some big landmarks. So June 18th was the end of my 6th year with my husband, which was extremely, it was just everything I could have asked for and more in terms of the awareness that we were brought to, the cycles that we have lived through, and just the natural progression and evolution of our souls that's apparent in the lives that we've led together for the last 6 years. Truly something magical. We also did a lot of growing up in the last 6 years. Like, as all of you know, I met my husband when I was fairly young. I was 20 years old, and it was, it's unbelievable that, that I'm still here, and that we're still here, and that this route that we committed to and that we had the vision for 6 years ago, and kind of 111 I just saw. But one of the message of today is really about me pushing and supporting you all to really believe in alternate realities for yourself. So all of the things are going to really surround that, but essentially the success of my own partnership has really been based on, and a lot of times the best time to dream up an alternate reality is when you're in a really shitty reality. And so luckily for my husband and I, when we met, we were in the realities we were living in were so dark and so traumatic and so left of center from who we really were and what the consistency of our life before those points had been. So we kind of both came to this space dreaming and getting contact from versions of ourselves, because there are infinite versions of yourselves that inhibit any possible timeline you can walk down. And so we just kept hearing all of these voices and their thoughts, like versions of us where we were really famous artists, or versions of us where in the future, we were married, or versions of us where all those realities, which it would be our responsibility to bring into form. So I'm not making anything up. I'm saying if I want to listen to them and listen to their teaching, the invisible teaching of those future selves, those other versions of ourselves that are existing in this now moment, doing completely different things, living completely different lives, they were trying to show me and my husband opportunities to realign if the reality that we were third dimensionally walking was not in alignment to joy, well-being, abundance, the things that we were truly, really searching for and begging for at that point. So we're going to talk about alternate realities today, but the 18th of June of 2023 was the end of my 6th year, and oh, what a day it was. And it was also Father's Day, which I think is always symbolic of, this recommitment that the Father makes to the plan that the Divine Feminine created, right? Like the mothering energy really births the children, creates the family, brings in the child, right? The mother summons in the future child, and that future child really is a major variable in what the family is going to look like. What kind of family are we going to be? Because we're calling in this other soul. So the Father's Day to me has always paternally really represented that agreement to commit to the plan that the Father did not conceive but will be enforcing. Okay, we brought you into this world, so we have to enforce that we have to move forward as a family. So that was really a beautiful aspect of self. I feel like spiritually the masculine energy came into union and committed and understood it after its long journey of healing through patriarchy, which is learning through failure, right? Of trying to do both roles, which you're not designed to do. And so you can attempt it, but then there's this void, and there's trauma on both ends. So through learning through these patriarchal systems, the divine masculinity broke through on that day, and it was so special energetically. It felt like history for the children's children, whoever the fuck's kids are going to be here in 100-something years. Like, I want to be connected to their ancestry, and I want them to know that was what was happening energetically at this time for the collective. And that's why their existence is so different. The world they live in is so different. And so that's happening. And then, Monday is the 19th. It's the first day of year 7 for me, which is so aligned because this is a 7-year. It's also the year of the rabbit, and that has a lot to do with 7 energy, and it has a lot to do with fertility and a lot of these sort of angelic higher energies of healing, harmony, relations, relationships, the relationship you have to spirit, to your spirit, to the spirit of others. So it's a beautiful energy. And so I'm so excited because for me, you know, I have a lot of different New Year's. There's the Gregorian calendar New Year that starts in the dead of fucking winter, which, you know, is always apparent for us, but we really acknowledge, you know, the astrological New Year in terms of the way that we don't need to beat ourselves up and like, since January, what have we really done? Like, you don't have to feel that way, because I really align more with the March New Year, the end of Pisces seasons, beginning of Aries season. So we have that New Year, and then we've got the actual New Year of my relationship, which is the cycle that we're on, you know. So to be kind of in a New Year energy for myself, I think it really resonates because we're in a new world. So a new year with a new world is a vibe. And this new world paradigm that also came on the solstice, which was the 21st, which was yesterday, was also all about Earth finally now being able to ground down any of these alternate realities. So now planet Earth is this place where you really, through applied will and intuitive connection and action, can align to alternate realities. It's a place where you don't just have to live out one existence. You know, there were people for 35 years, they would live and work in the same job because there was no other reality that was possible for them to tap into. That communication wasn't there. We were too dense of a time. So like, you know, when I think about how rare it was for those of us who were really ascended souls, you know, in previous generations or different timelines before now, how ahead of their time they were because they could hear these different alternate realities call in, and majority of the world couldn't. Now we're in this, you know, we've got these generations like my generation, Pluto Sag, which is really that alien that's like, bitch, I hear the alternate realities calling me. That's why we've got all these kids doing crazy shit. Like, you can be 16, a millionaire, because you just align to this other reality. And I think that's the science of this sort of like Gen Z, like these newer generations that are only going to get closer to that ability to really ground that down. So I pulled some cards today, or I already did a pre-message, and I'm going to do this message because I wanted it to be more succinct. But I really want to talk about this, and I really want to support people at this time to really believe, especially because you might be at different levels of density, so you may not be able to sense, be getting connection, be getting this communication about what, you know, these other options for yourself might be, how you could alternatively be living your life. Because right now, I'm holding a lot of space for my family, as I've been for my entire life, for them to believe that life could be different. And I was very much born as a child, like I said, of a generation that had capabilities that have newly evolved and developed in the human vessel because of how we've ascended. So I have these gifts that my parents don't even have, or my older siblings don't even have. So all of these people that are around me have always, you know, I could be typecasted or ostracized because of what they might have considered my blind faith and how different my life could be, or the way that they don't understand, like, why do you think, what do you gotta stay, you can't deviate from this norm, because they are so used to they can only get information from one reality. And so through this ascension process, through lightening our vessels, through making our vessels a space for your spirit to dwell, for the great spirit to give that piece of you that exists to grow and to strengthen its communication, because it's not going to yell. Spirit will never yell at you. So you've got to clear out the debris, clear out the blockages, so that spirit can quite literally whistle through you, and you can connect to whatever alternate reality you see fit, because there are infinite ways for you to live out your life purpose. You have to believe that. So the message of alternate realities today, because we're 8 minutes in, I just want to make sure this is synced. A Zestolite is calling you to let go of any and all densities in your life. Hello. And embrace the higher energies that are waiting to move through you, right? So this card is of priesthood. In that, it heralds a time of dedication to service in the light, especially in the realms of bringing through new ways to live, give, and survive. A Zestolite has come to aid you in perceiving the many levels of reality that surround you. Through the exploration of these realities, you can gain the insight and understanding necessary to manifest your purpose on Earth. Open yourself to the kingdoms of Earth, the light beings of the spiritual realms, and to yourself. This ally has come to facilitate your awakening to your true self and your place in the web of light that surrounds you. Be aware of subtle impressions, dreams, feelings, or other indicators that a message is being sent to you from other levels of reality. I want to pause there, because that is ultimately the biggest difference. I think the thing that could make what I do so difficult for people is that And what I tried to show in High Volume is like people think of me as a very, very sensible person, right? Like they think of me as like someone they can connect to, but when they would see this space, oh my God, they'd be like, okay, Alyssa, I hear you because you seem to be very rooted in your convictions about what you hear. But the problem is because of their density, they are unable to be perceptive of those subtle messages, dreams, feelings, or other indicators, right? That would tell you another reality is here. So where I'm standing up in leadership is I'm coming in and I'm embodying and I'm making sure I'm yelling from the rooftop, there is another way for your life to be. There's another story that you could pick any other fucking story. You really could. And I think where I'm getting not impatient, but where I really don't exist anymore is like I can't commiserate the idea of like I don't even have the time to fixate on a reality that has issues. If there's a reality that I'm creating that is issues, oh bitch, it could be anything. And because I'm so aware of my well-being, because I'm so aware that that's my birthright, like the way that if it's displeasing, if it doesn't fit, if it doesn't serve the creator, if the creation that I created, whether that be a job, a relationship, a family, a friend, a whatever the fuck, a project, a piece of art, if it doesn't serve the creator, if my creation is not trying to create a circuit, a system of sustainability to therefore continue to nourish me, bitch, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that. We don't even have to do that anymore. There's nothing you don't have to do any of that. And so I've come into a lot of these conversations where I'm seeing that polarity, that duality, where the reflected experience right now is the biggest problem isn't that whether or not the alternative realities were available to us. Oh, they're available now. But the problem is you're still gonna have to go through purifying your vessel in order to be able to even start the journey of hearing from your spirit. So that's what I really wanted to make sure I reached out and I extended that olive branch and I let people know that I walked through that. There was very much a time in my life where the things that I hear and feel and sense and get communicated are so clearly now. I really could not hear, sense, feel, or be communicated when I was living in low densities that perpetuated themes of suffering, separation, and a lack of love, a lack of self-love. When I was living in that space, yeah, bitch, you can't hear shit about self-love because you're not trying to hear it. You're not trying to choose it. You know what I mean? You don't want to live a suffering-free life because you're still trying to choose suffering for you and other beings on this planet. You know what I mean? We got to get real. We got to get real because you can't be mad. Like I hear a lot of people, my mother, all these people in my life who I'm hearing their reflections of what they've cultivated on the reality that they're living at this time. And there's all these things that they can pick apart about the reality. And the whole time my brain's like, pick a different one. And I know that I don't have that patience because I'm part of that generation that was born with that expanded DNA, was born with those capabilities, those intuitive and psychic abilities, because humanity has, like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, my mother's birth certificate says Negro, like, you know what I mean? And she was born in 1968, bitch, in Texas. Like, it's like, so it's the type of thing where I know I was born in a world where the consciousness was completely different than that of my, quite literally, the generation right before me, my parents, you know? So this is about me really stepping forward at this time and plainly putting this message forward to really support people right now. To one, watch this channel. Watch this channel beyond, like, not even just watch this channel, but like do this work, like literally, because I promise you, there's a friend, and that friend is me, and that friend has already done this. You are quite literally watching me from the beginning of this channel to now grow and develop and enrich the senses that I can say I was very much born with being activated. I don't think that I have the same, I didn't choose the ascension process the same as maybe even people that are slightly older than me or part of generations that aren't even like my parents, like not even that big of a gap, but like people who are years older than me who have had differences, like their Saturn return might have very much been an awakening. Like I was very much born pretty aware of these exact same capabilities and these sensations. Now, density and also influence, right, about what I should be doing with my life was really the biggest deterrent for someone like me and my husband, who again are only like a month and a half apart, so in age. And so we very much come from the same blip of time, the same blip of consciousness. And I think that that's why for both of us, like, it's been, even though there were times where we were very misguided, who we really are was obviously easy to come back to because I'm only 26 years old sitting here giving you the good word. Like I'm some sort of Jesus Christ. It's giving, how does she do it? It's giving, what the fuck? It's giving, there's none of this, there's no religious nothing to it. There's none of that. I'm telling you, I can be aware that you might be coming in from a different point. You might not be able to just automatically trust intuition or, these spiritual synchronicities, or you may not have the awareness or the Akashic knowledge of how this universe or this paradigm even really functions. Cheryl, because you could be anybody coming in here, I want you to know that this space and this channel was and is created for you to come in where you are, to be able to rewatch and rewatch and rewatch and rewatch and rewatch endlessly for the rest of your life. Messaging that is circular, because the idea and the intention in the messaging when I created them was to come with this standard of awareness that I am, one, delivering a message, and two, that this message is about me moving through so that I can now be lighter in essence, so that I can, by the end of the messages you get, it penetrates clearly, it cuts clearly, you see me transformed, you see me as someone that you would align with in being holistically healthy, holistically aware, holistically pumping and sourcing their own wealth. So that's really what all this is about, but I just wanted to stop on that. And so it says, in the coming times, it may be that you are being prepared for contacts by beings from another realm. So I want also a lot of you to realize that some of the tower moments you're going through, or some of the just general depression that people I think could be sitting in at this time because of the high levels of energy, the solstice. We just had this huge solstice shower for the last, I don't even know how many days, where it has just been relentless heat waves, sun downloads, sun neutrinos. It's been all of this DNA revitalization, this very purifying time. And I think that could have really caused a lot of third dimensional imbalances or exhaustion, like I said, in people, and it is truly because you are being prepared to be connected to from beings from another realm. And I'm not talking about ET phone home. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about the versions of you in this now moment that live a different reality. Yeah? Because it's true, right? Because right now I'm in the third dimension, but there's octaves of me that are in the fifth dimension and the seventh dimension and the ninth dimension. And those versions of Alexis communicated with me to help me improve the experience of my third dimensional self. You see what I'm saying? And so that is what I want people to start normalizing. That's why I'm talking dead ass. I'm about to go to work here in a few minutes, but dead ass, that's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand, that these alternate realities are preparing to make communication for you, because this has already happened. Earth at the solstice has now grounded into, boom, Eden, as in the garden is open. So that means now that the garden is open, how long do you think the Garden of Eden is going to be open to you before your higher self starts fucking crash coursing you to the correct path that you need to be on? So in the coming times, we need to rely upon these messages in order to survive. So I'm also saying this as a PSA, because you're also not going to have an option. So remember we talked about volunteering 4 or 5 years ago, the Great Reset of 2020, all the shit that we've been seeing. It's not even like that was the Great Reset, because you could look at the 80s and see the AIDS epidemic or any other pandemic that has come out where people are quarantining and we don't know what the fuck going on. And blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we've had this, and this happens every so many generations, in terms of you're still going, in order to survive that time, in order to keep growing through that time, we really have to rely on these messages. And that's why I've made this whole library, because I'm telling you how crucial it's going to be having this connection to your spirit, and that your spirit is spiritually healthy and alive and able to communicate with you. Because baby, it's gonna be a mess if you don't have that, because that's the only thing that's gonna get you out of the unconsciousness, that's gonna get you out of the manifestation of continued trauma, continued third dimensional programming, all this bullshit that we don't give a fuck about, right? So open yourself now to the signals and messages of these realms so that you can become a voice for these beings in the coming time. Heather, is that not exactly what Tether Studios is? Is that not exactly what Virgo St. North Knows is, right? So I'm tapping into these higher beings, and I open myself up as a channel. From all 87 of these videos, 86, how many videos exist? I open myself up as a channel. So whatever dimension or reality I was living in could come through and talk through me. I had been homeless during most of this original recording. I had been without job through a lot of these different recordings. There have been all sorts of instability that are referenced but are not put in some sort of victimized, there was nothing for you to worry about with me, okay? Right? Because the point was, no matter that I was going through any of that, was that I still cut out the time for those higher energies that were obviously not as dense as I physically was when at the point of recording, to come through and talk through me, so that I could go back and watch what the fuck they said while I blacked out and opened up as a channel, and not blacked out on drinks. I just when I channel, it's a really different sensation for me, because like I said, something with a higher consciousness than me. So it's really Alexis is not a part of the conversation third dimensionally. The lowest densities of myself are not what is not what's channeling to you. You know what I mean? And so I was a voice for these beings in the coming times, so that those beings could now merge. So now the timelines have merged. So you're seeing so now it's funny, because you're well, wait, you just look like you now. Now I just look like a better version of me than when I started this channel, right? But it's because all of those beings that I let talk all throughout, from whatever, because I didn't judge them, I didn't police them, I didn't even know where they were or what part of myself or what aspect of myself or what reality or distant reality was channeling in different points, but I just would hear them when they'd be like, hey, we have something to say. Do you think you could open up and broadcast so that we can say what we need to say? And I would do it, and then I would go back and watch what they said, and I'd be like, oh shit. And then I'd align my steps, and now I'm able to let them now not just be a higher density trying to communicate, but now they exist in my vessel. This is what I'm trying to get people to do. And this is where we're eventually going here. And like I said, like, not everybody has an undying love for the divine. Not everybody has a ninth house stellium. So I'm really committed to doing this work. Just, it's like the Fen vibes for me. To the extent that I do it at, but it's also not like, you know, this is the goal is that everybody's going to be like archiving and no, the idea is that this is just part of your daily life. This is just a part of your daily understanding that you've got to leave room in your life for these other entities, these alternate realities to come about, especially when you have to know that we are coming from a dying paradigm, a paradigm that we created to crunch in on itself because we needed to learn from that paradigm. So because that paradigm is dying, if that's like the bottom, that's the whole point I'm telling you this. I'm not really telling you this subjectively. I don't want you to believe. There's not some sort of belief that you need to believe in that I also believe. It's not something about beliefs. It's about what's happening. It's about the truth. So the reason I'm asking you right now, can you open up to your life looking different, to your life being completely different? Because that is the truth. I think people need to start dousing yourself slowly but surely with these things. What if my husband wasn't my husband? What if my kids were no longer here? What if my wife was no longer here? What if I was no longer here? There are all of these alternate realities, alternate scenarios. What if I wasn't a interior designer? What if I wasn't a doctor? What if I wasn't? There are versions of you that didn't pick the path that you're currently walking third dimensionally. And so when you're walking that committed third dimensional path and we're growing and evolving, right, we're getting away from this generation and this area and this time of judgment for the paths that we were walking and saying, okay, we're walking the path and we're no longer judging ourselves because we don't have to just stay on one path. You don't just have to keep building a reality that doesn't make sense. And that's really the PSA that I have today. And that's what I'm really starting to see in our work and in my life. I'm so excited to be back out in the world because if the reality that you are currently building for yourself is ineffective, meaning it leads you to any lack of wholeness, baby, you are probably being communicated more than anybody else on this planet right now. Like, there's a lot of communication coming into you, right? So, like, for me, like, now that I'm getting into this era of my life, there's not as much communication for alternate realities that's, like, coming and trying to get me to course correct. Because I've really aligned to reality now that has all these timelines in one. You know, the Alexis that is this big artist has found a way to alchemize with the Alexis that wants to kind of just live an anonymous life independent with a lover. Like, I found a way to bring all these versions of myself and honor what they want to do and want to contribute, but also appropriately understanding that, like, my third dimensional experience is the biggest point of me being here. And while there's so many aspects of spirit that have always existed, that have always been in the form of spirit, like, while I'm here now, like, let's find a way to alchemize and put first and foremost this tethered human experience. And so that's my overall goal for a lot of people, is that, you know, I don't want to keep hearing or seeing or feeling like, you know, when it comes to family or friends, like that I don't have some sort of tangible way to really help them understand the work that I'm doing. This isn't some foo-foo, caca, boo-boo. This is very simple. This is very simple. And it starts with what is keeping you, identifying the things that are keeping you from believing that it could be anything else. You know, I have been around people, like I said, you know, you'll be the first to hear me say it. Marriage, getting married. Why would I do that if it wasn't because I was in love? You see what I'm saying? Like, because the reality is you have to live with that person every day. So, like, you know, so for me, like, these are the kinds of things that I'm saying. Like, I could get around someone who's just, like, you know, having all of these, you know, acute issues with their partnerships or whatever the case may be. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know, the reality is there's a certain level of faith you have to have in the divine. And when we self-will a lot of things and we get results of that self-willing, We want to go into some sort of state of cognitive dissonance where we don't want to take accountability for the outcome of said self-willed situation. So you might have picked a partner, now you 3-4 years in, and what the fuck are you doing? What are y'all doing? Living life, just sitting, because you're not growing, and because you're still the one talking about not growing. Like, I'm not saying that you and your partner need to go get married, buy a house, do nothing. There's no one way to be. But when everything that comes out of your mouth is the dis-ease, the dissatisfaction, the misalignment, the depression of how you're living, change how you're living. Is there another way for you to be? Do you have to do it this way? Because the reality is there's absolutely another thing for you to do. You could be with someone else. You could work somewhere else. You could live somewhere else. You could have different friends. You could go to a different church. You could stop going to church. This is what I'm saying. The rigidity of our understanding. Rigidity is something you don't want to. The part of what Uranus is about to shake up for a lot of people is because when we become rigid, something can be true for us, but truth just is. Just like I tell you, my husband just wakes up next to me every day. Baby, when I tell you the last 6 years, I haven't tried to stay next to one person at all. But there's someone who's, like, my husband's path is the same path as mine. Like, quite literally, when we were living separate paths, when we met each other, we got crashed onto one path. Not even self-willed, like, through weird whatever. Like, the time that when my husband had to move in with me for the first time, it wasn't because we were ready to move in. It was like 6 months into us dating, and his roommate pulled a knife on him. He had nowhere else to go because the police were like, yeah, when he gets released from the psych ward, you're probably not gonna live with him. He's probably gonna be mad that you call the cops. So you're probably gonna just want to, like, because we can't hold him, so you need to find somewhere to go. And I get this call, we're on the phone, and like, mind you, my husband is almost killed. So I'm like, okay, babes. So he has to move in with me because I was just like living in a college house, like 4-bedroom college house with nothing but a bunch of college kids. It's like, yeah, there's plenty of room. You can just come move here and be safe and be away from something. Someone's gonna be able to come find you. And that's really how our life started together. That's really how the story really started, and we've been together ever since, 6 years later. But it's the type of thing where, like I said, baby, if it's not working though, and we're not talking about your self-work. I'm not just saying give up on. I'm saying some of us have been getting the same results. It's that definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over and over and again, and you're still holding yourself and God responsible for why shit is not different for you. For why shit is still the same raggedy as whatever. And at the end of the day, the biggest problem that I think a lot of people are even having at all is that they are not dreaming up a different, what is the alternative? What else can we do? Because if it's just that my life can only be put to this, and this person or this job or this lifestyle or this routine or everything that's on my plate right now is just holding me in purgatory and it's killing me, babe, I don't care what I gotta do. Being alive, it's gonna be real raggedy if I am suffering every day. So the first point blank period is you gotta believe your worth is not in who you're with or what you have. Your worth is intrinsic to who you are. And the only thing that's decreasing your worth, let me tell you, is killing off your spirit slowly but surely every day by doing all these non-livable, unsustainable, ridiculous, left of the point, consumerist bullshit things. This isn't political. This is me saying you're not on the point. You're not worried about any of the things that are going to promote your long life, because life is not short. Life is long, bitch. I don't know why niggas want to tell you life is short. How could you know life was short? Nobody who's ever died thought life was short. Nobody. You're here for the time you're here. How do we know it's short? Yes, the planet is still going to be here, and it's housed a lot of us, but that doesn't make life short. And I promise you, these raggedy ass days are just going to keep dragging because you're not going anywhere. There's not some mass extinction event that any different than any of the regular mass extinction events that already always occur that is going to happen, that's going to keep you, no, judgment, all this bullshit. No. The judgment day that you might be reading in your Bibles or your philosophical texts are referring to the day when you can't do anymore, when the saddle breaks, when this reality you give, it can't go on any further, it can't grow anymore. That's when you start feeling depression. That's when you start going to Western medicine for diagnosis, to excuse the fact that you're not making a change in your life. Change it. Literally change it. Literally. It will take, yes, sometimes you can't be scared. It might take financial setbacks. It might take, you can't live with the same, you can't eat fast food every day. You can't do some of these things every day if you want to live. But then you also have to look at, are those things negative? Are cutting out certain things like my screen time, the amount of gadgets and devices I have, the amount of time that I sit down in a day, the amount of time that I spend with my friends just getting black, whatever these habits that we do are, I'm not even judging the habits, but if you're going to come up to me and talk to me about how miserable you are, well, then what do you want me to do? What do you want God to do? What do you want your higher self to do for you? Right? Because I promise you, me believing in alternate realities is the reason that as many of those bitches from alternate reality versions of me that want to live, I let them live out. In the day-to-day, I got my little life, I have my little, like I know my little whatever, my little work schedule, a couple hours a day or whatever, but outside of that, when Alexis wants to broadcast, when the Alexis that's gonna fucking change the shape of this world with this fucking archive, wants to talk, girl, she's talking. She's allowed to talk. She's allowed to say what she needs to say. Because I am not going to let my third dimensional experience, and she's like, oh, I don't have a lot of money, and I don't have a lot of this, and I don't have a lot of that, and I don't know if I'm qualified, and I don't have the production that it takes. None of that has to come into a conversation. She's trying to tell me she's living in a different reality, and she has the right to come through on this frequency to speak about what she's experiencing in her reality. And she's slaying it. And she's serving people. And she's helping people. And because her reality is so different than the reality I'm living, when I channel, when I'm giving this message, that version of me doesn't feel limited. It doesn't feel restricted. It doesn't feel unwanted. It doesn't feel out of place. And it doesn't feel fragmented. It doesn't feel like it's in the firmament. It feels liberated. It feels at peace, and it feels whole. And because I kept letting that come through and guide me, I like watched that version of myself that no matter how upset at people I was or how sad I was, like when it comes time for me to give the message, my heart has nothing but full capacity to give. Bitch, like when I'm going through shit where I really want to punch a bitch in the face because of what I'm going through and they doing me, like this is the part of me that's like, wow, there is such a God within me. There's a godliness to this space. There's something about letting these alternate realities come into this frequency to teach, learn, and heal me. And now I look more like that Alexis with fucking full balance, none of the problems. Like my own mother, she's like acting like she didn't birth me and live with me all of my fucking life. Talking about like, well, you've always, she's literally had the audacity to say I've always been skinny and like, you know, because now that like, you know, I got on my holistic health, you know, my skin is stays clear and I don't do nothing to it. You know, my hair long as shit, I don't do nothing to it but braid it myself. You know, my weight stays under control because all I do is I don't do nothing but not even exercise. I just move my body. I really don't even be doing one type of exercise. I just walk, really. You know, with my husband, and I ride my bike, and I like to be outdoors. Like, you know, it ain't shit, you know. And most importantly, I have a no-suffering diet. That changed everything for me because diet was the first way that they was killing off my lineage. So I had to acknowledge that. You know what I'm saying? If I want more life, I'm going to have to fight them demons that's in my blood. Because of what the fuck my ancestors had to eat. You know what I mean? So it all matters, but she had the audacity to gaslight me, talking about like, I know, like, you know, like some people, when they don't feel confident about themselves, they don't feel like sharing. And I was like, wow. You know, it's kind of a funny way to gaslight somebody in terms of, you know, you can always look at somebody who got somewhere because they made a change in their life. But baby, like, you can even look at me at the beginning of this series, and maybe it's marginal, the differences, but it is a very new arrival. I've never looked like this. My whole life, I was in prison. I mean, I had no money growing up. My mom was a single parent, and I was like raised by my brother for the most part. We was eating frozen corn dogs every day. Yeah. Get into this Hot Pocket. Yeah, that was what I was eating. That was what was me of all people. And I still had all these same alternate realities that were ready to come through for me. So that is really the overall message that I wanted to let you know. But I'm excited for this point on to really support people in that. But I want today for the mantra to be to really focus on how can I really support myself. What is keeping me? What is the reason why I can't just say? Because some of us are so scared to say it. Some of us are so scared because, again, third dimensional bullshit. Well, you've been with somebody for 3 years. You should be here by now with them. No, some of y'all are literally with people for 3 years and you guys are about as close as and compatible as a doorknob. So, you know what I mean? Or you could be with somebody for 10 years and that mean nothing. So forget society's judgments of it. Get to the point of what reality would make your life better. And it's not one with just more money. That's not really most of y'all's problem. It's really not. Because if you don't have to worry about things, if you don't have things to pay for, you don't really need no buku amounts of money. So how can you see what I'm saying? And that's the life that I'm really living out right now. Where I'm realizing I don't even have to own a big home right the fuck now. if what I really want is to not have to be dealing with these, like, people don't need all my money, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just divesting, and I'm not just, you know, a slave to having to pay all this and that and Jones, right? Ownership over my life, over my vehicles, over my car, over my phone, all the shit that I have, I want to own it. And so that's really the message that I have for you all today. I'm super grateful for it, and I'm really excited to, you know, have this opportunity to move forward. But yes, that is the message. Embrace these alternate realities and really start brainstorming how everything that is currently happening in your life, none of it could be happening. None of it. And yeah, but you don't disassociate from the disconnecting of it, but just know when you accept that, like, especially if you're leading a life that does not fulfill you, you literally don't have, you do not have to be living that life. You don't. And that doesn't mean that just remove it and do nothing with your life. That means, what do you need to be doing that would fulfill your life? What does a working space look like that does fulfill you? What does a partnership look like that does fulfill you? What does a household look like that does fulfill you? What are friends that look like that does fulfill you? Right? If those are the things that you need in your life, be honest with what you really need in your life, and then seek the definitions for how we can, because I promise you, a lot of you guys are getting a communication that I understand that your bodies, the time that you were born, may not be able to understand that you're being so communicated to. So use this library. I intend to keep coming back to support this, and I'm so grateful that I was able to channel this message. It's just so clear and succinct. But have a blessed day. I'm really excited for my day moving forward, but I will see you all in the next video. Thank you. Be blessed and happy solstice.